Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. I reached for her hand in the parking lot. She didn't pull away, not immediately. That would have been easier to take. Instead, she looked at our joined hands like they were foreign, like they didn't belong together anymore. Then, without turning to me, she said, "Deserve it first." That was all. No emotion, no warmth, just a casual dismissal, like I was asking for something I hadn't earned. That moment wasn't loud, no yelling, no tears, but it was the loudest silence I've ever heard. We were walking to our car after her friend's art exhibit. She had laughed all night. Not with me, of course. With him, Carter, some smooth-talking, beard-oiled, poetry-spitting friend of hers from Creative Writing Group. He hugged her twice as long as he should have and called her Mal. I hadn't even earned a nickname. When I reached for her hand, I wasn't asking for much. Just some reminder that I wasn't completely alone in this relationship. Just some proof that after 11 years together, I still existed in her world. But no, I had to deserve it first. The ride home was dead quiet. She scrolled on her phone the whole way, laughing once softly at something I never saw. I gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary and pretended not to notice. But something broke that night, and it wasn't just my pride. It was the realization that I was competing for her attention in a race I didn't even know we had entered. Competing against strangers, friends, coworkers, and losing every time. At 3:14 a.m., I got out of bed. I hadn't slept a second. I walked into the living room and sat on the floor. That's where I always think best. And I started writing a list, not of things I'd done wrong, but of things I'd done right. Things I thought made me a good husband. Fixing her mom's roof, selling my motorcycle to help pay off her student loans, covering for her when she forgot her niece's birthday, taking care of her when she had that weird surgery she didn't want to talk about. Every little sacrifice, every quiet moment I held her when she cried about things she never explained. Every smile I gave her when I felt like crumbling inside. I looked at the list and asked myself, did none of this count? Apparently not, because the next morning her phone buzzed while she was in the shower, and when I saw the name pop up, I nearly dropped my coffee. Carter, the message. Last night was magic. When can we talk alone again? My coffee hit the sink. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because now I wasn't reaching anymore. I was watching and waiting, and she had no idea what was coming. I didn't confront her that morning. I didn't storm into the bathroom or scream or slam anything. That's not who I am. Maybe that's the problem. I don't make enough noise. I process things slowly. I overthink. I carry things quietly until they rot inside. But this time I wasn't going to rot. I was going to see exactly how deep this betrayal went before deciding whether to walk away or burn the whole damn bridge. She came out of the bathroom with a towel around her hair, humming. The same woman who once cried when I gave her a scrapbook of our memories now hummed like she had no past. No shame, no husband sipping cold coffee at the table, staring at her like a ghost. She looked at me and blinked. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I think I even smiled. That's what terrified me most, how natural the life felt. That whole day I was in autopilot. Work was a blur. I drove to the shop, talked to customers, sorted invoices, even laughed with Greg from accounting like nothing was off. But inside, I was unraveling. Every message alert I'd ignored, every girls' night she never invited me to, every time she locked her phone the second I entered the room, the puzzle pieces were there. I just didn't want to see the picture they made. That night, she told me she was going to bed early. I waited until I heard the soft rhythm of her breathing, then picked up her phone from the charger. I didn't even need the passcode. I'd seen her enter it 1,000 times. The first thing I checked was her text with Carter. I don't know what I expected. Maybe subtle flirtation, something I could still rationalize, but it wasn't subtle. It wasn't innocent. It was emotional adultery on full display. "I love how you make me feel seen. Lucas doesn't get me the way you do. I wish last night could have lasted forever. I keep imagining what it would be like if it was just us." Each message felt like a slap, but I kept reading because I had to, because I wanted the pain to stop pretending, because somewhere deep down I still thought maybe I was overreacting. Then I found the photo. It wasn't graphic. It wasn't even scandalous by modern standards. But it was her in our bedroom wearing the silk robe I gave her on our 5th anniversary, holding a glass of wine, smirking. Caption: "Wish you were here instead." I couldn't breathe, not because of what she was doing, but where. Our space, my space, the room where we used to whisper dreams, fight about nonsense, and hold each other through loss. That room had been repurposed into her little theater of lies. I put the phone back without a sound, lay beside her. She stirred slightly, rolled toward me, her arm brushing mine. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't cry. I stared at the ceiling and repeated one thing in my head like a prayer. Deserve it first. Fine. She could keep that phrase, wear it like a crown, but she was about to find out what it felt like when I finally stopped trying because I wasn't going to beg. I was going to become invisible in the loudest way possible, and it would start with one small shift she'd never see coming. The next morning, I didn't bring up the messages. I didn't even flinch when she kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work. She smiled, complimented the way my shirt matched my eyes, as if she hadn't called another man her escape just days earlier. I watched her walk out the door like she hadn't just burned the very foundation of our marriage, but I didn't stop her. Not yet. That's when my plan started. And no, it wasn't some dramatic revenge movie script. I'm not that bold. I'm just a tired man who got sick of begging for scraps of affection. I decided I'd do something she never expected. I'd disappear from the inside out. Slowly, quietly, I'd stop being available, stop doing the things she never appreciated, stop proving myself to a woman who thought love was something you had to earn, like a coupon. The first thing I did was stop texting her during the day. Usually I'd send a check-in, maybe ask how her lunch break was, but not this time. By noon, she sent me everything okay. I replied, "Busy, just one word." She didn't follow up. That evening, I didn't pick up her favorite wine on the way home. I didn't warm up leftovers like I always did when she was late. I just sat in the garage drinking a cheap beer, scrolling through job listings in another state. Not because I had a plan yet, but because the idea of staying felt like suffocation. When she came home, she barely looked up from her phone. "You didn't cook?" "I thought you ate at Carter's place," I said casually. That made her freeze just for a second. Then she laughed too loudly. "What?" "No, don't be weird." I didn't argue. I just sipped my beer and said, "All right." She stood there for a moment, maybe waiting for a fight, maybe expecting me to gravel for the truth, but I wasn't going to give her that. Not anymore. That weekend, I started documenting everything: her late-night messages, her location pings when she claimed to be at the gym, but was clearly parked at some residential address. I even placed a cheap voice recorder under the passenger seat of her car. I didn't want this to end in chaos. I wanted it to end on my terms. I wanted evidence. Not because I was hoping to catch her, I already had, but because if I ever doubted myself again, I needed something solid to remind me I wasn't crazy. One night she came home flushed, claiming she had been driving around thinking. Her lipstick was smeared. I noticed it. She noticed me noticing it, but neither of us said anything. We just stood there, two strangers pretending to still be tethered. "You okay?" she asked, folding her arms. "I'm great," I said. And this time I meant it. Because the more she lied, the less power she had over me. I was done being the emotional servant in this circus. Done living under her judgment, her standards, her rules. She wanted me to deserve her. Fine. She was about to see how it felt when I stopped trying. 3 days later, the recorder gave me more than I ever expected. It wasn't planned that way. I had just tossed it under the passenger seat, hoping to catch a call or maybe a quick lie I could later hold up in my face like a mirror. But what I got instead, it changed everything. I sat in my car after work, phone in hand, earbuds in, and played the first clear audio file. It started with the sound of her car door slamming shut, followed by a pause, then his voice. "Carter, I still can't believe you haven't told him." Mallory laughed softly. the same kind of laugh she used to reserve for our private moments. Told him what? That I'm done playing house with a man who doesn't even know how to be a husband. My breath caught. I pressed pause, stared at the dashboard like it would offer me comfort. It didn't. I pressed play again. "He's not dumb now," Carter said. "You really think he doesn't feel it?" "Oh, he feels it," she said. "But he won't do anything. He just takes it. That's the best part. I don't even have to lie that well. He'll stay. He always stays." I stopped listening. I didn't need to hear more. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. Not just the affair, the contempt, the disgust, the way she spoke about me like I was some charity case she'd outgrown. And Carter, he sounded smug, comfortable, like he knew he'd won a prize he didn't even work for. I sat there for almost an hour, not crying, not raging, just unraveling quietly. I started thinking about all the things I had done for her over the years. The time I worked double shifts just to afford her dream honeymoon, the way I drove across state lines to pick up a rare painting. She mentioned liking and passing, the nights I held her through panic attacks when she couldn't breathe, back when she still let me touch her. And now I was a footnote in her new story, the boring husband she hadn't left yet. That night I didn't sleep again, but this time I made a list of everything she still relied on me for. My name was on the lease, on the bank account, on the car, the health insurance. I paid the utilities, scheduled maintenance, managed all the annoying tasks she never wanted to deal with. I was her safety net. And I realized something. She might have stopped loving me, but she hadn't stopped depending on me. That gave me power, and I was done wasting it. So I started preparing quietly, carefully. No fireworks, no accusations, just quiet shifts in the balance of our life. I opened a new checking account. I spoke to a lawyer. I made copies of everything. Every receipt, every message, every recorded whisper she never thought would leave that car. I updated my emergency contact, removed her name from my will, changed passwords. She didn't notice, or if she did, she didn't care enough to ask. But the truth was, the man she thought would always stay, he was already gone. It was her idea to host the game night. Ironic, really. She hadn't wanted to invite any of my friends for months. Always said they were too dull or emotionally exhausting. But this time she was the one planning snacks, lighting candles, even setting out the matching wine glasses we only used when people we wanted to impress came over. At first I thought she was trying. Maybe this was her guilt acting out in some domestic performance, but then I saw the text from Carter. "Can't wait to see you later. Should I bring that card deck again?" That's when I realized what she was actually doing. She was inviting him to our home on our couch at our game night. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to blur the lines until no one, not even I, could tell what was real anymore. But that night I was done being quiet. I didn't cancel the event. I didn't confront her. I simply prepared. I invited a few of my friends, not the loud ones, not the jokesters. I invited people who had known us since the beginning, people who had watched me build my life with her brick by brick with blood and time and tears. Mallory welcomed everyone at the door like she was the perfect host. She even kissed me on the cheek again like muscle memory. I played along. I smiled, passed out drinks, even made a dumb joke that made her laugh too loud. But every move was deliberate, every word rehearsed. Carter arrived fashionably late, of course. Slim-fit shirt, smug face. He brought a bottle of wine and greeted Mallory like they were old friends, nothing more. He hugged her for exactly 2 seconds too long. I counted. We started with small games, the kind that masked tension with forced laughter, but I kept watching the way her eyes darted toward him when she thought I wasn't looking. The way his knee grazed hers beneath the table. I watched it all. And when the conversation turned to most embarrassing secrets, I stood up and said, "I've got a good one." The room quieted. Mallory smiled politely. "Oh, come on, Lucas. No, really, I think this one's perfect." I pulled out a small Bluetooth speaker from under the couch cushion, clicked a button on my phone. At first, it was just the sound of car doors, then her voice crystal clear, the same lines I'd listened to a dozen times in my car alone. He just takes it. That's the best part. I don't even have to lie that well. The silence in the room was suffocating. He'll stay. He always stays. Mallory's face turned a shade I can't describe. Her smile vanished. Carter looked like someone had pulled a trap door beneath him. My friends. Their jaws dropped. One of them even muttered, "No way." Mallory shot up. "Lucas, what the hell is this?" I looked her in the eye. Calm as ever. Game night, right? Just playing along. She reached for the speaker, but I pulled it back. "You wanted honesty? That was yours." Carter tried to act like none of it mattered. "We should probably go." I smiled at him, probably. Mallory didn't move. She just stood there frozen, exposed in front of the very people she had once convinced that I was the one falling short. But I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I just stood there, finally weightless. Because in that moment, she realized what it felt like to be watched, to be judged, to be left speechless. Not because of cruelty, but because of truth and the man who always stayed. He was already halfway out the door. She didn't say a word that night after everyone left. Not when Carter stormed out without looking back. Not when my friends offered awkward goodbyes and wouldn't meet her eyes. Not when the last guest quietly shut the door behind them, leaving only the ghost of the evening behind. Just silence, thick and sour, crawling up the walls of our living room. Mallory sat on the edge of the couch, clutching her knees like a child, eyes darting toward me and then away as if I were a stranger who had broken into her home and turned her world upside down. But the truth was, I hadn't broken anything. I'd just shown everyone what she had already destroyed. She finally spoke. That was cruel. I tilted my head. "Was it? You humiliated me?" she whispered like the word tasted bitter. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You humiliated me for months. I just gave your lies a stage." She stood, her voice rising. "You planned that. You sat there letting me embarrass myself." I cut her off. "No, you embarrassed yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." Her face twisted, not in anger, but something closer to disbelief, like she couldn't recognize the version of me standing in front of her, and maybe she couldn't because I wasn't the same. The man who used to apologize for things he didn't do, who used to ask how to be better for a woman who never tried for him. That man was gone, and I had no interest in resuscitating him. "I think we need to talk," she said more calmly now, the performative rage fading as quickly as it had flared. "Just us," but I shook my head. "We're long past the talking stage." She stepped closer, her voice softer. "You never said anything. You never told me you were hurting." "I did," I replied. "You just didn't listen. Or maybe you didn't care. Either way, you made it clear I had to earn affection like a coupon. Deserve it first. Remember?" Her eyes filled, and I swear for a split second I thought she might finally show real regret. Not for cheating, not for lying, but for what she did to us, for what she made me feel like I had to become just to be loved. "Lucas," she said barely above a whisper. But I was already walking past her, in our bedroom. I opened the closet and pulled out the bag I'd packed days ago, back when I started preparing for this. It was all ready. The essentials, paperwork, USB drives, even the photo of my parents on their wedding day that used to sit on my desk, a reminder of what love was supposed to look like. She followed me in, panic blooming. "You're leaving." I didn't answer right away. I zipped the bag, stood straight, and looked at her one last time. "No," I said, "I already left. Tonight was just the part where I stopped pretending otherwise." Her mouth opened, then closed. No argument, no speech, nothing, and I walked out. The air outside was cold, sharp, but I breathed deeper than I had in months. For the first time in what felt like years, I wasn't chasing her approval. I wasn't shrinking myself for her comfort. I wasn't asking to be seen. I was done asking. I didn't answer her text for the first 3 days. She didn't call. Mallory always had too much pride for that, but the messages kept coming in soft at first, like she was testing the water. "I think we both overreacted. You don't have to stay away forever. Let's meet and talk like adults. There was no apology, no accountability, just that same cold confidence she'd always carried. The belief that I would come crawling back the moment the silence stretched too long. After all, I always had before. I was the doormat, the quiet one, the man who stayed. But not this time. I wasn't staying in a hotel or crashing at a buddy's place. I had rented a small guest house on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but it had a quiet porch, a working heater, and most importantly, no memories attached to it. Each morning I woke up without her next to me was like breathing with clear lungs for the first time in years. By the end of the first week, her tone changed. The messages got sharper. So you're just going to vanish? Running away doesn't make you right. You had your faults too, Lucas. She still didn't get it. She thought this was about revenge, that I left because I was trying to punish her. But the truth was I wasn't angry anymore, not even hurt. I was just done. On the 10th day, I mailed her an envelope. No return address, just her name on the front. In handwriting she would instantly recognize. Inside was a letter and a copy of the lease termination agreement signed by me with the forwarding address of the landlord's office. I had moved out and I'd removed myself from everything. The lease, the utilities, even the Spotify account she always used but never paid for. I heard nothing for 2 days. Then she showed up. I was sitting on the porch sipping coffee, listening to the wind run through the trees. She pulled up in her car like she was still the center of gravity and walked up the steps without asking if she was welcome. "You really did it," she said, waving the letter. "I told you I would," I replied. She sat down on the opposite chair without asking. I didn't stop her, but I didn't offer her coffee either. "You think this fixes things?" she asked, running away like a coward. "No," I said. "I think it ends things." She looked stunned, genuinely stunned, like she had never considered that I might not just leave, but let go. Her voice dropped. "You're really not coming back." I finally turned to her, not with hatred, not even with sadness, but with absolute clarity. "You told me I had to deserve your affection, earn your respect, and the whole time you were handing it out to someone else behind my back. I didn't leave because I'm weak, Mallory. I left because you made it clear I was never really in this marriage. I was just performing in it." She blinked, then scoffed. "So what now? You're just done." I nodded. "I was done the moment you said deserve it first. You just didn't hear me." She stood, almost knocked her chair over. I think she expected me to chase her, to soften, to give her one more reason to think. She still held some power, but I didn't move. She got in her car, slammed the door, sped off without another word, and I just sat there, coffee in hand, watching the dust rise behind her. She finally realized that I wasn't running. I was free. 2 weeks passed, no calls, no surprise visits, just peace. I kept waiting for the crash, the emotional collapse, the regret, the sadness to kick in. But it didn't, because I realized something no one ever tells you. Sometimes walking away doesn't feel like failure. Sometimes it feels like finally telling the truth, not to them, but to yourself. I started rebuilding quietly. I cancel-selled joint accounts, sold off what didn't serve me anymore, and deleted every photo that felt like a lie. I filled the space she used to dominate with things that actually made me feel alive again. Books I wanted to read, a playlist full of songs she used to roll her eyes at, a small coffee table I built myself, uneven, imperfect, but mine. Then out of nowhere, I got a letter. No name on the envelope, just my address in her handwriting. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Inside was a note, short, no excuses, no manipulation. "You were right. I made you earn love while giving it away for free. I hope someday someone makes you feel chosen without you having to ask for it." I couldn't. "I'm sorry." I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. Door I never open. Not because I needed the memory, but because even endings deserve to be stored somewhere quietly without ceremony. A month later, I met someone new. Not in the way you'd expect. Not fireworks or fate. Just two people standing in line at a bookstore laughing about a ridiculous book cover. Her name was Elise. She didn't know me, didn't know my baggage, didn't ask for a performance. We talked for 3 hours that day about music, about road trips, about nothing. It wasn't love at first sight. It was peace at first presence. And that, I realized, is even better. I don't know where that story is going, but it already feels different because I'm not auditioning this time. I'm just existing fully, honestly, deservingly. So, to the man or woman reading this, feeling invisible in your own relationship, I see you. And you don't have to earn basic kindness. You don't have to win affection like a prize. You just have to remember that love, real love, doesn't make you shrink to fit. It lets you breathe. That's the end of this story and the beginning of another. If you've ever experienced a moment like this where you finally let go of what was never really yours, share it in the comments. Maybe your story will help someone else stand up, walk away, and start again. Thanks for watching. This has been Reddit Confessions. We'll see you